Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Another day the Lord has kept us and has blessed us to assemble in the way we do with his word as a centerpiece for our conversation. And we thank you for being with us tonight, whether physically or otherwise, and look forward to your participation in our conversation tonight. If you're participating by way of YouTube, we invite you to do so. Chat with us and give us a chance to include your comments and observations and questions in our discussion, and we'll do the best we can to be sure to include you, because we want you to feel included and not just know that you are present. Let us begin our time together in prayer. Eternal God, we are grateful to you for the blessings of this day and for the fact that we are permitted by your grace and mercy to assemble another time in your house and in your name. We ask that you honor your own word, where you've said where two or three gather in your name, you'd be in the midst. So we thank you for your presence among us tonight and ask that you breathe on these moments that we share, that the consequence would be pleasing in your sight and uplifting for our sake. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. What do you do when the battle is over? What do you do when you just coming from the fight? What do you do when the last blow has been thrown and the winners and losers are obvious? The outcome is certain, and what's appropriate is to figure out what to do next. What do you do next when the battle is over, when the fight is off, when it's over? Yes, sir.
Usually you celebrate.
You celebrate? You have a celebration?
Yes, sir. Or
all right.
You look at your supplies, you resupply. Mm-hmm. You just, just get together and just, you might even, make sure that anything you can carry with you from the enemy, you carry it with you.
I see. So you pick up, you celebrate. That's one thing. That's the first thing you said. So I take that. That's the most important thing. And you gather any spoils. If there's anything on the battlefield that you can use later, you decide to take that with you. Anything else you do when the battle is over? How many microphones we have? 4? Yes. I got one, you got one, and there's 2 there. So you're going to have to talk for the rest of them because they don't have microphones. Is that all right?
All right.
All right.
You might have a feast also.
Have a feast.
Yes.
So you might have a party. I'm going to leave one of these microphones over here. They spread out so that what we have, we've only been doing this, I don't know, 18 months?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So how many times can I say, if you sit close enough to people who've been vaccinated, you ought to be all right. But wear your mask when you sit close to them so you'll be sure. But have a microphone so that the people who are not in the room can engage in our conversation. They won't know what you say unless you use a microphone. Is that all right? All right. What do you do when the battle is over? Deacon Bell says you celebrate. You gather the spoils of war. Another thing you said after that.
Have a feast.
Have a feast. You have a party. All right. Anything else? Yes, Reverend.
When the battle is over, I thank God for bringing me through the battle.
Now, I'm going to tell you that I think that's what he meant when he said you celebrate. He ain't say it like that, but I've been listening to him for a long time, so I know he had this in his mind when he said you celebrate. You thank God that you're on the winning side, especially if you're on the winning side. If you're not on the winning side, you just thank God that the battle is over and that maybe you'll get another chance. But gratitude to God, an expression of gratitude to God is appropriate for the time when the battle is over, especially when it's been successful and you've had your way. For 20 years, the United States has been, with other countries, has been in Afghanistan fighting a war every day. And and it's a lot like the war in Iraq, and a lot like the war in Vietnam, and something like the war in Korea, because all of these are wars that whose outcomes were very different from World War II or World War I, where we had these big victory celebrations because of the outcomes of those wars. But the outcome from this most recent war, which I guess the last troops will come home next month, is very different from World War II, because we didn't win. The outcomes that we hoped to produce did not come to pass, and just like the Russians were run out of Afghanistan in the 70s, the United States is leaving Afghanistan in pretty much the same condition that it was found 20 years ago. We've had this conversation in Bible study before, but we're talking about a part of the world that has been in turmoil for more than 5,000 years of recorded history, and we don't know how many more years before history in that part of the world began to be recorded. But there's something about instability that dogs that region of the world, the Middle East, in a way that produces continuing instability. And so that while we'd like to celebrate, and we would like to do some other things, I guess maybe some people are thanking God that it's over. I know my son has been deployed between Iraq and Afghanistan about 6 times, and I'm happy that his next deployment won't be anytime soon, and I thank God for that. But so I'm celebrating that the fact that it's come to an end. But I'm not sure that there aren't some more. You ever been in a fight? Anybody here ever been in a fight? Mm-hmm. What did you do after the fight? Yes, Mary. You don't do anything after the fight? Okay, Mary never been in a fight.
I usually assess my situation. How did I get here, and how will I not fight again? That's what I normally do.
Mary turns her attention to the next fight, because when you're paying attention, you know that you're always in a fight, even when you don't know that you're in a fight, because there's invariably someone who opposes everything you try to do. There's one whose opposition is relentless, and who comes at us when we happen to win a battle. He comes at us from a different direction in a different way, and we don't know how much longer it'll be. Maybe it'll be immediate, his return, or maybe it'll be a month or a week or a year or some number of years. But what we know is that the enemy who opposes us will come again. My brother used to have this saying. He said the fight ain't over till I win. That was his thing. So anybody who opposed him, he was not a violent person, but he was a very practical person, and he offered that kind of thing, and didn't mind having a scrap every now and then if that's what it came down to. But the fight ain't over until I win. I would hope that the Christian's mantra would be, a fight with the devil ain't over until I win, because you can expect that he'll return. Well, what happens when you begin to assess the climate, assess the situation, as Mary says, and take a look at what you've been dealing with, and how did I get into the position in the first place that I was in this particular fight? It's over now, but I want to make sure that I never get into this fight again, or fight like this again, and so I do some things. Deacon Bell says one of the things that you do is clear the area around you, so that you can make sure that if there's anything that could harm you, is removed. And if there's anything that you can use, you take advantage of that. That's what I think about when I think about minefields. You know what a minefield is? Yeah, what is it, Deacon Bell? That's my only soldier in the Army. You in the Air Force, right? Y'all don't know nothing about mines. You Navy, oh my. You have mines in the water. Okay, there's Deacon Bell. What's a mine?
A minefield is.
You don't have a microphone, that's why I can't.
Okay. It's an area that is saturated with underground explosives, and you're not aware of you walking into a dangerous area. So, and if you go into those minefields, you're liable to set one off.
Yeah.
So it's not an attack you can see. Yeah.
That's the Army answer. The Navy answer is?
They're on the water.
I'm looking for the sailor over here.
Oh, yeah, they're in the water and underwater. And it kind of reminds me, minefields kind of remind me of dangers seen and unseen. When we talk about stuff that you don't even know is coming, that you can just walk into.
There are these explosive devices that are used. Either Mary and Lorna had a sign a minute ago that is often used to designate a mine. If you find out that there's a minefield exists, then if you got friendly people following you, you leave them a note that says, be careful if you pass through this area. This area contains mines. This is a minefield, and it's designed to destroy any approaching army. Gideon had just been victorious in a magnanimous way. And we've been talking about it for a better part of the last month, about Gideon and his defeat, his army's defeat of the Midianites. With 300 soldiers, the army went down from 32,000, that's almost 2 divisions, to only 300 soldiers, that's 3 companies, to defeat or to go up against an enemy that had more camels than they had soldiers, and so was uncertain how the outcome would be. So much that Gideon was afraid when he was first told that he was going to have to fight this way, and he was concerned about his ability and the ability of his small force to be effective against a highly, seriously superior force. I know I can't beat this joker. It's too many, way too many of them. Their equipment is better than ours. There are more of them than there are of us. They have cavalry. They have archers. They have more weapons. They have more of everything than we have, and we're going up against them. And yet Gideon, with his faith in God, makes a decision to go ahead and attack the Midianites. And as we said last week, or the week before last, he does so victoriously. And so his small army of 300 soldiers take their lamps and their swords and their vessels, and they break the vessels and fire up the lamps and cry out together from 3 different directions, the army of Gideon and the army of the Lord. Is that the word? And the sword of Gideon and the sword of the Lord. And they end up confusing the enemy with their surprise. They're surprised at the number, and they're surprised that there are not more of them because of the amount of noise they made, and they are surprised because they are already fearful that because Gideon has had a geographically a superior position on the high ground, they're about to be overrun. And so in confusion, they end up killing each other. They end up fighting each other, and Gideon comes away victorious. And they do take some of the spoils of war, and they do rout the Midianites, and they run them. The Midianites are going every direction they can to get away, and Gideon and his army continue to chase them. And even though he begins with 300, along the way he recruits, if you will, some other soldiers from other tribes to join in the battle, and that's where the trouble emerges. There are mines. There's a minefield that they must engage, that they must negotiate. They don't really know where the problems are. They don't really know what the problems are like. But if you're wise, you know that there's always going to be a problem. You know that mines are like that. They are, I think Trustee Bunn has described them as likely to show up anywhere. You don't know where to look for them. They in the water, they float, and some float at one depth, and some float at another depth, and some float at another depth, but they're mines in the water. So there's some that'll take out a destroyer, and some that might be used on an aircraft carrier, and another one that might be used on a submarine. But the mines are put into place so that they can do harm. So it is on the ground. Deacon Bell says in the ground warfare, the enemy soldiers plant mines and create mine fields so that if they know that there's a limited number of approaches that you could get, you can't come in that way. You can't come in that way, but you can come in this way. So that's where you plant the minefield, the avenue of approach, the likely avenue of approach. That's how you get there. And so here Gideon is in this place where he and his army are feeling pretty good about themselves. They're feeling satisfied that they have vanquished their foe. Now, they were warned beforehand that they should be careful not to take credit for their success in the battle. That's why they didn't go into battle with 32,000. Rather, they went into battle with only 300, so that the glory would belong to the Lord and not to themselves. And yet, Gideon and his army, like so many of us, don't remember for very long the fact that it's he who has brought us and not we ourselves. It's he who has gotten for us the victory and not on our own strength and our own power. They were warned beforehand, and they soon forgot. That's how it goes. And so here they are in what I'm describing as a proverbial minefield. Now, think about this minefield is that the mines that they have to be careful about stepping on are not mines left by their enemies, but it's mines left by their friends. And these mines include jealousy and envy and selfishness. They include elements that crop up when the battle is over and it looks like everything is going well and everybody you know is happy. The problem is that some people you don't know, and the people you don't know might be unhappy. They might not be glad they're probably glad that you won, but they wanted you to win with them. They wanted to help you win. They wanted to be a part of the victory. And so they find, well, they did all right, but it would have been better if I had been there because we would have done it this way. Well, they did all right, but the Midianites never would have gotten so far away had we done it my way. Well, they did all right, but they messed up on this part and they messed up on that part. It's like when the choir sings a great song and the presentation of the song is great, and somebody comes along with a criticism of one of the singers because he hit a wrong note, or one of the musicians because they missed something or somebody else. You find something wrong with whatever somebody else does unless I did it. Now, when I do it, of course, it's always perfect, and it's right, and there's nothing wrong with it. But the minds that I'm talking about, the M-I-N-E-S that I'm talking about, are the minds that we plant for each other that destroy our good work. And that's what Gideon was up against. They did good work, but the people who should have cheered from them, who should have thrown the party, who should have celebrated with them, instead criticized them because they weren't included in the battle, and they wanted to be there. So we'll start at verse 8. I think we're going to read 17 verses, Lorna, and we'll see how far we get with that. Yeah, 8. Who is my reader? It's usually Mary when Cornelius is not here. No, verse 1, baby. Chapter 8, verse 1. There you go. Now the Ephraimites asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us like this? Why didn't you call us when you went to fight Midian?" And they challenged him vigorously. But he answered, What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't the gleanings of Ephraim's grapes better than a full grape harvest of Abiezer? God gave Oreb and Zeeb, the Midianite leaders, into your hands. What was I able to do compared to you? At this, their resentment against him subsided. He gave him a big head, kind of blow him up a little bit. Gideon and his 300 men, exhausted, yet keeping up the pursuit, came to the Jordan and crossed it. He said to the men of Succoth, "Give my troops some bread. They're worn out, and I'm still pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the officials of Succoth said, "Do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your troops?" Then Gideon replied, "Just for that. When the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I'll tear your flesh with desert thorns and briars." And from there he went up to Peniel and made the same request of them, but they answered as the men of Succoth had. So he said to the men of Peniel, "When I return in triumph, I'll tear down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkar with a force of about 15,000 men, all that were left of the armies of the eastern peoples. 120,000 swordsmen had fallen. Good God. Gideon went up to the route by the route of the nomads east of Nobah and Jobeah and attacked the unsuspecting army. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two kings of Midian, fled, but he pursued them and captured them, routing their entire army. Gideon, son of Joash, then returned from the battle by the pass of Heres. He sought a young man of Succoth and questioned him. And the young man wrote down for him the names of the 77 officials of Succoth, the elders of the town. And then Gideon came and said to the men of Succoth, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna, about whom you taunted me by saying, 'Do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your exhausted men?' He took the elders of the town and taught the rest of the Succoth a lesson by punishing them with desert thorns and briars. He also pulled down the tower of Peniel and killed the men of the town." Here is a case. Let's wait right there, Lorna. Here is a case where the main battle is over, and this is the mop-up part of the operation. They're cleaning up after the battle and making sure that the kings of the Midianites, the ones about whom they should be most concerned, the ones who have the ability to raise up a new army, the ones who have the ability to retaliate, are done away with. And so rather than giving up the fight, when the kings run, Gideon and his 300 men chase the Midianites looking for their two kings, the two ringleaders, thinking no doubt that if they could take the hands, as it were, of the ringleaders, they would have enough of a victory to indeed celebrate. Now, but when they run in to their own kinsmen and ask them for some help, man, we've been chasing these jokers for hours. We've been chasing them for days, and my men are tired or hungry. How about break us off a piece of bread and some water or wine? And so rather than joining in with the celebration, saying, "What do you need? What else do you need? You've done such an amazing job so far, just 300 of you. If all you need is bread for 300, we got you." But that's not the answer they get. The answer that they get instead is an answer of pride. It's an answer of jealousy. It's an answer of arrogance. So whereas they might have been able to come along and help, instead they come along and criticize. Yes, Reverend. You trying to get ready? You don't have a voice. I know. I wish I already knew what was in your head. I would just say it for you. Usually if something comes out of your mouth, I can make up the difference. But we've been doing this for 10 years now, so I get it. That's where Reverend Bell wants to talk, but she still has laryngitis after 3 weeks, and we speak healing to you as soon as possible, even now. But it's the way of ordinary people, I suppose, to respond in selfish ways when we could be generous and helpful, when we could be congratulatory, when we could be supportive, when we could take solace in the fact that the 300 Midianites went to war and won, and none of us had to go, and their victory is our victory. I think it's a problem that plagues the church today. I'm all right when I win, and I'm good when we all win, especially if I get some credit. But if we win and I'm not included, you ever start reading the names of people who participated at the end of a program? So you start naming people and what they did, and so did that part, and so did that part, and we've been around. When you've been around the church for a few minutes, you get to you learn that you don't ever start calling names unless you can call all the names. So conventional wisdom is, will all the members of our committee please stand? You ask everybody to stand. So whether they did a lot or a little bit, everybody stands up and everybody shares in the credit. But invariably, there's somebody who will stand, but they be inclined to say, this could have been a much better situation if they had allowed me to put in 4 cents instead of 2 cents. I tried to get them to do this or that. So rather than joining the celebration, some of the other tribes that were invited to come in a supportive role, they didn't want to be in a supportive role. They wanted to be in a frontline role. They wanted to be on the battlefield, or that's what they said. But you have to be careful about wanting to be on the battlefield, because it's not what you think it is. You think that the battlefield is easy, but it's not. You think that the warfare is easy and comfortable, but it's not. You got to go through some stuff. And so with Gideon, how many did the text say they defeated? 100 and some thousand? 120,000. So 300 people are responsible for the defeat of 120,000 people. That's unbelievable that 300 could beat 120,000. I've told you before, the U.S. Army doctrine is if you're going to fight an opposing force, you want to approach them with 3 times the numbers they have. So instead of fighting 120,000 with 300, if we were in that situation, we'd fight them with 360,000, and that's how we would deal with them, an overwhelming force so that we'd be sure of our victory. Well, it was not so in this case. A small band took the battle and won over a much larger force, and there were those. Maybe some other people wanted to go and be in the battle. Why didn't you ask us to help? Why didn't you allow us to participate? Why didn't you allow us to join in the fray? Why didn't you ask for our assistance or ask for our advice? You did all this without us, and now the battle is over. The glamorous part is done, and you come in here asking us for bread. We don't want to join in at the end. We wanted to be in at the beginning. We wanted to be involved at the beginning of the decision when the decision to fight in the first place was being made. We wanted to be on the front lines. It's hard to find in some places. It's not hard to find in Olive Grove, but it's hard to find in some places people who don't mind being unseen. It's pretty easy in this church, in my experience, to find people who don't mind being in the background. They don't mind supporting roles. They don't mind not being in the front. They don't mind if they don't have to be in charge of stuff. In this church, it's been my experience in 12 years that there are lots of people who support quietly from the rear. And they often don't get any credit for the stuff that they do. And there are lots of people who don't know what they do. I try to make it my business to be conscious of people like that who don't mind being. They're not bystanders, because bystanders just watch what happens. But they're people who watch what needs to be happening. Next thing you know, they are in there participating in there getting it done. Unfortunately, that's not true in most settings. In most settings, there are not enough people who are happy just to be in a supporting role. Was it Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis? You don't have to be a star to be in my show, because the stars have a way of emerging, but the stars can't get anything done unless they have a supporting cast. The stars, I mean, they need some people around them to make the stars stand out, to make the stars look good. You can't make it. You need some stars, but you don't have to be a star to be in God's show. You can be a member of the cast, the multitudes, the thousands who participate in small ways. And if I ask you to list the small ways that people support the work of the church, you couldn't come up with a list, because the things that you would dare say are small aren't small at all. They just happen to be the kinds of things that you would not like to do. Mm-hmm. Somebody got to usher. Mm-hmm. Somebody got to unlock the door. Mm-hmm. Somebody got to lock the door. Somebody's got to sanitize. Somebody's got to print. Somebody's got to run the booth. Somebody's got to prepare the space. Somebody has to clean up before. Somebody has to clean up after. Somebody has to do the publicity. Somebody has to greet the people. Somebody has to bring them in and have them seated. There are lots of things that go into being a church. Ms. Miller makes Wednesday food pantry look easy, but I happen to know that she might work on the food pantry 5 days a week, even though the food pantry itself is a one-day-a-week event. And if you come and work in the food pantry with Ms. Miller, she's going to feed you. Miller cooked food most of the time. And if you ain't had no Miller cooked food, you haven't eaten yet. But she prepares for the people who come looking for food from the food pantry, and she prepares food for the people who work in the food pantry. Now, it might not seem like much because she makes it look so easy, but Ms. Miller can take $100 and feed a multitude, and I've seen her do it before. Ms. Miller has a way of, and she spends the time it takes to get it done. And there's some other quiet people who come out on Wednesday, and they may not seem to everybody like they do much, but every part that everybody does is a big part. So there were people watching Gideon chase the Midianites who didn't get that. They didn't get having a piece of bread for somebody who'd been fighting for days, who's been running for days, who having a drink of water for somebody who hadn't had a drink in a long time. It might not seem like much to you if you're the one with the bread and you're the one with the water. But for the one without bread and without water, it seems like a lot. It's the way of the church. When we start looking at ourselves as a body, we have a tendency to decide that one part of the body is more important than another part. Truth of the matter is, if you have ears and you don't have any eyes, you can hear fine, you just can't see. And some things you can't discern by hearing, you have to see. If you have eyes and you don't have legs, you can see where to go, but you can't get there because you need your legs to get you there, and so on for the different parts of the body. And each of us plays a different role when it comes to our place in the body of Christ. And the challenge for us is to find our role and then to be okay with it, and to do so without minimizing the roles of other people that seem less glamorous. Yeah, a lot of people think that what they want to do is preach because it looks like the glamorous part. A lot of people think preachers make a lot of money, and some preachers do make a lot of money, but most preachers don't make much money, and most preachers don't talk to many people on Sunday. I don't care what their preaching is like. It looks glamorous because it's in the front, and you get to wear a suit, and people are impressed when you wear your suit or your robe and all the stuff that preachers wear, because they assign a different thing to the glamorous thing. But come up here on a Sunday and have your assignment be to preach, and don't have people around you to make sure that when you get to that part, you're ready. You can do that. Yes, Reverend.
It speaks of the support system of anything. The support system of a foundation is the most important thing. Even in a building, you never really see the foundation. But if you get a deteriorating support system, foundation, that whole building will come down.
You can't have this without that. You can't have the part you can see without the part you can't see. That's a great illustration. So there is a part that's the invisible part, and those are the players. Those are the characters that make the work of the church go. in different ways, and rarely, if ever, in all the same ways, because they found their niche, so to speak. I've been talking for a long time now about trying to do some work in our music ministry, and one of the things about the music ministry that people say invariably is, well, I don't mind being in the choir, but I don't want to sing every Sunday. Now, I get that. If I'm honest, I tell you, I don't want to preach every Sunday. But they pay me to do it, so I come and preach most of the time. But some Sundays I don't feel like it. But it's my responsibility. It's a thing I'm called to do, and so I do it. If you are called to serve in a particular way, I'm gonna need you to help me understand that it's okay for you to say, I don't mind serving, I just don't want to serve all the time. I don't want to serve every Sunday. So I said, I was talking to somebody about this today. I said, I tell you what, how about if you only get blessed when you serve? But when you ain't serving, you don't get no blessings. How about that? I mean, that sounds fair. It sounds equitable. It sounds like your system of values. Your system of values says, then I got to save some of this for me. So what do you mean when you said you would give some of it to him? What does it mean to be set apart? What does it mean to be sanctified? What is it to be set apart for use by God? So if you're set apart for use by God, which is what it means to be sanctified, which is what it means to be a saint of God, but God can't use you except on third Sunday, then we ought to talk about your sanctification, because you want to be a part-time servant. How would you like a part-time God? Well. And so it's easy for us, because we are generally selfish for our own reasons. And I was talking to one of our members a few weeks ago, who helped me to see the difference between a reason and an excuse. And she said, well, it sounds like a reason, but it really is an excuse for wanting to have things done my way in my time under my circumstances. But this kingdom enterprise is not made for our enjoyment. It happens that often we derive a lot of pleasure out of serving God, but the reason we exist is for the service to go the other way. So our thing is to glorify God. Our mission in life is to glorify God and not to be glorified by God. And so we're called to serve. And if your service is something small, like offering a piece of bread to people who've been working hard for a long time, it seems like a little bit to you. But if you think about somebody who's been working hard, hadn't had any bread, any water, how much difference it makes. Now, some of you never been hungry. I have a hard time when I hear people talk, when I hear somebody say, I'm starving. I said, nah, you ain't starving. You might be real hungry. Hongry. You might be real hungry. But you don't even know what starving looks like. Starving is takes hunger to a whole different level. And I have the same kind of reaction when I hear people say they're exhausted. Not really. You might be really tired, but you're not exhausted. If you were exhausted, you wouldn't be able to say, I'm exhausted. You'd be some almost level to the ground, as they say, if you were really exhausted. But it's easy for us to step on a landmine and find ourselves blown up because of a selfish decision. Like they didn't ask me to help when they were going to war. Why are they asking me to help now? They didn't ask me when they made a decision what they were going to do, what we were going to do. So don't ask for my help and support now. They didn't listen to my opinion about how things ought to be done. So let them work it out. So some people come to the place where they say, I'm not financially supporting, and I'm not going with my attendance. I'm gonna let them work it out the best they can because I wasn't included in the process. That's a landmine. Everybody's included. It just the being included in the process just requires of each of us to get in where we fit in. And people come and ask me all the time, what can I do? I'm not sure, but if you come, it'll reveal itself. We're going to have an opportunity like that Sunday. I feel, well, what can I do? I heard, I think it was Trustee Bunn and Brother Pope talking about preparation for everybody's birthday Sunday. There's not always a crowd out here setting up on Sunday morning before service. As a matter of fact, there's rarely a crowd, and there's often not enough people to help do it. And when there's not enough, Mr. Bunn is the first one to know, because if it means he's by himself, he doesn't even get to divide the load. He gets to carry the whole load. If there's two, at least they can divide it between the two of them. But more often than not, it's just one. And this Sunday, the 15th, and again on the 28th, that we'll need a lot of people from Olive Grove to help put the hands on the work. And there are people who, Shireen's been working on this for almost a year, and it's about to come off in a few days from now. But it won't happen by itself. We need the people, the unsung heroes, the unsung individuals, the people who really mean it when they say, you don't have to call my name. I know that I know what I did. I know what I contributed, and I give God glory for my ability to do it. Didn't happen with Gideon. Didn't happen with Gideon's tribesmen. It happened with the people who fought with him, the 300, but it didn't happen when he approached the others. Could I see verse 8? From there, he went up to Peniel and made the same request. Go back up one. Gideon replied, oh, okay, I got it. I'm trying to get it. One more. But the officials of Succoth said, do you already have the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna in your possession? Why should we give bread to your troops? That's Olive Grove saying Mount Gilead. That's your program. We ain't got nothing to do with it. So y'all have your. Is this me, Al? Is it me? You don't know who it is. Who is it? The purple one not around. I don't think anybody got a purple microphone.
I got it.
Yeah, turn it off. Let's see what happens.
Okay, turn it off.
Off, yeah. Did that do it? It might have. It's off now. So we have a frequency issue going on that we can't always figure it out. I think it's a purple one, Al, and she just turned it off. Thank you. Where was I? Yeah, it would be like the church. There are 6 churches in our fellowship. And at the end of the day, all 6 churches have the same goal. All 6 churches have the same mission. All 6 churches have the same obligations when it comes to the gospel. We might have different perspectives about what doing the gospel looks like. I say there's 2 things. There's saying the gospel, that's teaching and preaching, and then there's doing the gospel. That's the stuff that you carry on the street. That's the stuff you do when you serve other people. So all 6 of the congregations in our fellowship have the same obligation, same duty. And we serve even the same people. But what would it be like for any one of us to decide that what another one of us was unimportant or less important or less necessary? And what would it be like for us to pretend that one of us is shining and another one is dull? And I always say that even if we had all the people who could get online on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and in the sanctuary at the same time, there would still be more people outside of the church than there are inside the church. So we don't really have any room to brag, because there are so many more sinners than saints. There's so many more people who have not come to Christ than the number of people who have in fact decided to come to Christ. So the work is, ain't nothing to brag on. So if we bring in 120,000 and it's just 3 of us, that's a good job. It's just not finished because there are more outside than are inside. And so it doesn't make sense for us to say, well, verse 7 again, so you bad. You bad. You already won. So don't you already have the hands of the kings of the Midianites? So Gideon said, okay, yeah, I am bad. And just for that, when the Lord has given Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, I tell you, flesh with desert thorns and briars. He's trash talking now. This is the same man who in the 3rd chapter, he said, well, Lord, really? Lord, now, tell me something now. I'm going to try this thing because you said try it, but I want you to make this fleece wet. I want to tell you, if the fleece wet, I'm going to do it. I'm going to believe it's you. That's the same man. And the fleece was wet. And then he said, well, let me see you do it again. Do it on the other side. That's how we roll. That's how we lay things out. God revealed this to me. God showed this to me. God opens doors all day long and puts neon signs, LED lights over the door saying, enter right here. But we have a hard time going in until we come to the place where we're sure. That's how Gideon started. Gideon started fearful, timid, and uncertain. But now, Gideon talking trash. Come back down here and tear you to pieces in just a little while. Just for that. Just for not giving us any bread. Just for talking like you talking. We don't come, when we come back, I'm going to show you something you ain't never seen. You don't want none of this. But it's going down for you. And then in the next verse, from there, he went up to Peniel and made the same request. Give me and my men some bread and water. But they answered just like the previous people did, just as the men of Succoth had. And so he said to the men, okay, I got something for you too. When I come back in triumph, tear all this stuff down. I'm going to break this tower down. I'm going to bust all this stuff up when I come back. So don't give us no bread. Don't give us no water. That's how we do. We Gideon might have had in his age of his humility, he might have said, okay, I feel you. I know you upset because this didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but I'm not going to hold it against you. It is your water. It is your bread. You don't have to give it to us. I just thought you would because we are all brothers. I just thought you would share it with us because we all in this together. I just thought you'd share it because we were not only fighting for ourselves, we were fighting for all of us. But don't give me no bread, don't give me no water. We'll go ahead, we'll keep it moving, and we'll find bread and water somewhere. That would have been the humble Gideon. But the proud Gideon said, what? What you mean you ain't giving us no bread and water? All right, don't give me none then. You're going to wish you had one day. Have you ever seen these people? Have you ever been these people? Yeah. So if I'm right, there have been times when we've been both of those people. We've been Gideon, we've been proud and vindictive, and we've been on the other side where we've been selfish. But both of those are the landmines that we step on when the battle is over, because we forget what God has brought us through and forget how we got where we are. And so selfishness and arrogance and pride and other that's how we started this talking about undertow. They take us under and end up destroying who we really want to be. Yes, ma'am. Help out, Rep. Deacon. There you go. That's a good husband. Uh-oh. No, it's not. The light is on, but no, nothing on. Al, did you mute the red mic?
And it speaks to how arrogant. It speaks to how arrogant we can get when we forget God is doing it. And we begin to think, we can do this. Now, how Gideon was speaking, he forgot. God did all of that. So he going to say, well, we going on, but I'm going to come back and handle you. But he only had that strength because of God.
That's interesting, because the very thing that God warned against when he said, now, I see all this 32,000 soldiers, but if I let you go to fight these people with 32,000 soldiers, you're going to think that you managed to do this by yourself. So I want you to wear this thing down, pare this thing down, and I don't know how many people would have gone down had he included the men of Sukkoth and Peniel when he was mustering an army. I don't know how many of them would have said, I'm scared, because that was the test. Everybody who's scared can go home now. They might have been offended. They might have. I wonder who you think he's talking to. I ain't scared of nobody and nothing. So don't try to send us home. We don't know how they might have reacted, but for some reason, they were not a part of the 32,000, and they were not ultimately a part of the 300. And so Gideon, even with victory with 300, falls prey to his own pride, and says, takes credit for what God has done, and speaks in retaliatory language to the men of Sukkoth and Peniel, said, I'm gonna get you back for the way you have treated us. We're going on now. We're gonna get the rest of these Midianites, but when we come back, it's going down. And that's the way this landmines participate in towing us under. It causes us to forget how we got to where we were. how we got to where we are. It is, I listen to you say that every Sunday. You recite Psalm 100. It is He who has made us and not we ourselves. The emphasis is on He and we, or He and not. It is He who has made us and not we ourselves. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. And that's, you got to put it, when you put the emphasis in the right place, you get that thing figured out. That is, it makes you or bend your back or your knees and make you become more humble. It's 8 o'clock, and we've done this together for an hour. Next week we'll resume around verse. No, next week we won't resume. Next week we'll be in revival on Wednesday night at this same YouTube channel. The Oakwood Ministers Community Leadership Council will host revival. The preacher on Wednesday night is Dwight Riddick, who's a pastor of St. Mark Baptist Church in Portsmouth, Virginia. And the preacher on Thursday night is William from Mount Pleasant Baptist Church in Norfolk, Virginia. What is it? William what? Davis, thank you. Reverend William Davis is the pastor of Mount Pleasant in Norfolk. And the preacher on Friday night will be Kirk Houston, who's the pastor of Gethsemane Church in Norfolk, someone who's been here a time or two, who we will recognize. But we'll be available on YouTube and on each of the Facebook channels for the congregations represented in our council. Olive Grove, Mount Gilead, Oakwood Chapel, Vision Center, and perhaps the Gospel Light and Zion Light will be able to participate. We remain in prayer for them in their pastoral searches as they try to organize and recover from losses in their congregations. But we'll be here, 7 o'clock next Wednesday. In the meantime, meet us on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. YouTube, Facebook, we'll be right here. Come out. We do have people in the sanctuary on Sundays, and lots of people gather on our parking lot, but we make it easy for you to join our fellowship, and we'll do that when you come. So God bless you. Have a good evening.